Hey, you ready to go? Time's a-wasting.
Just about. You know, I'm going over a mental checklist of all the things that I'm going to need for our fishing trip. You know, I think this was a great idea.
Well, I just figured since we're going to be interviewing a guy that collects vintage fishing gear, that going on a fishing trip might get us in the mood and help us to relate to him better.
I didn't even know you liked to fish.
Are you kidding me? To this day, I still hold the record for the largest fish I've ever actually caught in the entire state of Iowa. And that was over 15 years ago, and it doesn't even include all the fish out there that are almost half that size.
Wow, I didn't know I was going fishing with a pro.
I'm pretty humble about it.
Well, I can't wait to use my new lures.
Oh, you went out and bought some goodies for the fishing trip, huh?
You know, actually, for the past year or so, I've been designing and making my own fishing lures. They're right here in the tackle box. You want to see them?
Sure.
Okay. And here's one.
Well, that's
big.
I've never seen anything like that before. That's
slider, juicy. Fish will love it. Here's another one. The same thing, you know. Frankfurter.
If I was a fish, I'd be tempted, but where's the mustard?
Oh, I got ketchup. That'll help. Make it taste better.
Oh, brother, do I crush his spirit? It doesn't matter. I was 30 years old before I found out that lures weren't intended to be used as snag locators. I always used them to figure out where I didn't want to fish.
You know, I never thought of mustard.
My name is Jimmy Sparks. I wanted to create a show that showcases collections and collectors. Expert mega collector Doug Smith and I have no trouble finding incredible collections in every category you can think of, and in any neighborhood, in any city. No selling, no buying, no haggling. We're not interested and they're not either. We are all about the stuff. It's collecting. Seriously.
The hike. Well, this is where we go in at. There aren't any foot trails to the place. I just know how to get there.
Well, hope it's not too far. Could this place be any more isolated?
Jimmy, this place is virtually unfished.
Skunk.
You can't very well walk in front of me now, can you? Do you have to stop every 5 minutes? It's just up over this hill, I think.
You know, they say a person can survive in the wilderness for a week without food, but water, that's another thing.
I sure don't remember this part.
You don't remember? How much further do we have to go?
We're almost there, Jimmy. And then we'll come out of this forsaken overgrowth of vegetation into a new world.
Seriously?
Can you think of any place more tranquil or peaceful? I come here sometimes just to get lost.
Lost? Yeah, you got us lost all right. I mean, we could have driven here. We'd be here a lot quicker. I mean, we're right in the middle of town.
Really, Jimmy? You're eating already?
Well, I got to thinking. What if my stomach started to growl and I was right in the middle of landing a big fish? What am I going to do? One, other?
Hey, you're scaring the fish. Didn't we just hike 3 miles to go fishing? Here, wait a second, Jimmy. Wait a minute. Here. Try that once.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
Better go see what he's up to. What's going on here?
I'm Alex.
Alex is trying to bait the hook for me.
Okay, I'm canceling our hunting trip.
This is a crazy crawler lure. As you throw it out in the water and retrieve it, the arms would fold out, and then it'll crawl across the top of the water. Pretty unique lure, and this particular one is one of my favorites. They call it a glowworm. It's made by Head & Company.
How long have you been collecting lures, Scott, and what got you hooked?
Well, I've been collecting lures about 20 years, and what got me hooked, I think, was just the fact that there were so many different lures out there in different styles and colors. Fished all my life. You know, Dad always took us out fishing, and one of the first lures that I got was actually my grandfather's. Got from the farm, found an old tackle box, opened it up, and there's a glass-eyed lure in there. So one thing led to another, I guess, and just have all kinds of fishing collectibles.
Do you still have that very first lure that got you started?
I sure do, Doug. Came from the family farm, found an old tackle box down there, and in it was this. It's a creek chub pikey. Silver Flash is the color. So that kind of got me started with collecting lures, and specifically that color. Silver Flash is one of the first colors that I collected, and this is probably the best example I have of that color. Made by Creek Chub Bait Company. Just a huge variety of different lures, different styles, all the same color.
So Silver Flash was a color that you were interested in for some reason?
It was the first lure that I got out of my grandfather's box, so I thought, well, it'd be kind of neat to see what kind of lures were the same color from that manufacturer, so that I focused on that originally. Then I kind of blossomed into some other things.
Are there other companies that you collect specifically then?
Head & Company is another one that I have quite a few lures of, but those two, Head and Creek Chub, are by far the most of my collection, but I have probably literally 20 different manufacturers based on style, color of box, different varieties of lures.
Are those two companies historically significant or important in the history of lure production?
I think they're probably two of the biggest manufacturers, and really kind of what started it going back in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Well, they come in a lot of different sizes and shapes and designs. Show me these two here. It's a good example of the different sizes they come in.
Again, these are Creek Chub Silver Flash. This is about the size of a small fish, used for catching muskies, northern pike up north. The same lure, same manufacturer, obviously quite the different size.
Well, the small one would actually scare away a lot of the fish that I catch.
Well, you just haven't been at it as long as I have.
Scott, do you have a favorite style of lure that you collect?
I sure do. Head and Pumpkin Seed is probably one of my favorites to collect. It's a very collectible lure, nice variety. Pretty tough to find some of those.
I think I understand why they're called pumpkin seeds, just by the shape, right?
Actually, pumpkin seed, the third one down on the left, is a type of fish, and that's what that lure was actually modeled after, to look like a pumpkin seed.
Where do you normally pick these up at?
You know, I used to be able to go to shops, auctions, garage sales and find them. Tough to find these days, and I find myself finding a lot of them now or just getting them off of eBay.
So you collected for 5 or 10 or 20 years, and you pretty much found what you were set out to look for. How did you branch out so that your collection wasn't stagnant?
Well, you know, I always went for that hunting lodge, fishing lodge theme. This was one of the first things we got in my collection. My wife found this picture. The little girl looked just like my daughter back in the day, so we kind of picked that up. I noticed the net, the poles, the fish stringer, so I went and got those things. So I found a pole that was similar to it. I found the net, I got the brass stringer there, and the cane pole, all to kind of tie into the picture.
Makes for a great display.
What I tried to do was get a variety of different fishing type items to tie everything in. I wanted it to look good. You know, I've collected fishing reels throughout the years. I got minnow buckets, a unique display with fishing lures in it. All the different types of things that I could decorate, basically kind of a museum theme, but look tasteful, you know, and still be collectibles.
You're not necessarily looking for a thermos, but you run across it and you have to have it.
If it has a fish-related theme to it, I'm probably going to buy it if it's going to look nice. I tried to be tasteful. You know, at some point in time it can look a little cluttered, but I tried to be tasteful and have everything tie in. There's just so many things that are related to fishing and, you know, that type of hobby that it was pretty easy to be able to come up with some stuff to display. This is probably one of the rarest lures I have, Creek Chub Husky Muskie in mullet. What makes it so rare is probably a 1930s lure, and they would consider this unfished. Not a bit of rust on it, no specks, paint chips, very, very nice lure.
Now, how do they get the pattern? Were these all hand painted?
These would be painted with a net product to give it the scale look. Way back in the early 1900s, they did hand paint more of the gills, but they had a process to paint most of the lures, typically what they would now through manufacturing.
What's a lure like that worth?
This lure today would probably be upwards of $350, $400.
It's almost in mint condition.
It is. That's why they call it unfished.
Scott, how old does a lure have to be before it's considered collectible?
Well, there's a lot of things that make a lure collectible. These lures here have glass eyes, and they're vintage probably about 1920s is when the Vamp came out. They still make the Vamp today. Probably in the 40s, 50s, they switched to just a painted eye lure.
This is really an attractive display. This is a great idea. I like how you have the lures hung up on this old net.
Yeah, my sister gave this to me years ago. I was able to utilize that to get a lot of different variety, a lot of different lures out there. This is probably the biggest variety of lures from different manufacturers that I have in my collection. Some more valuable than others, some were very collectible, and some not so old, but a nice variety.
Some of them have articulating bodies. They're in 2 or maybe 3 parts.
Some have 3, a unique example down there. A lot of them are, they call it a jointed pikey or a jointed minnow. Made it look like more of a fish-like movement going through the water.
Yeah, some of them, a lot of them look like fish, some look like frogs and bugs, and this one here looks like a mouse.
You're exactly right. That is a little head and mouse, has a little tail on there. They call that a beetle lure. You know, anything a fish is going to eat, they try to replicate that. Well, let me show you this, something I picked up quite a few years ago. I was looking for a variety of lures and bulk all at the same time, and I got this Kennedy tackle box pretty much already filled up. I've tweaked it a little bit, but there's a lot of lures in there, and it's just amazing how many lures we'd even put in a tackle box like that.
That's pretty awesome, and I guess it'd be rather rare to get a complete collection like that at one time.
It was something I was able to pick up, and it had a lot of different lures in it, and the ability to be able to get something like that all in one shot was kind of nice.
Silver Flash was the original color that you collected, and it looks like a fish. But they come in a lot of colors, right?
Yes, this is probably the best example I have as far as different colors go from a manufacturer. They're again all creek chub pikeys, just a huge variety of color. Some of the odd colors are very valuable because nobody bought them, and if they did buy them, they didn't use them. They just sat there. It wasn't a popular color. So the odd colors, sometimes you'll find those in very good condition because they weren't fished very often. The box is probably the first thing you threw away. You know, the lure was thrown in the tackle box. Back in the day, who kept a box? You know, they just discarded that when they loaded up their tackle box. So in order to find one with the box, it's a nice find. At this point in time with my collection, I really look for unique items. And the unique items, the rare lures, I know what I have, what I don't have. I tell you, if I have a lure sitting on the shelf and I know I have it and the price is right, I'm such a sucker, I'm probably going to buy it anyway.